Hello, Easy Dating Coach family. This is my favorite thing in the world to do is go live, and I've not been doing it enough. And even like the icing on the cake is I've got my friend here, Valerie Greene,
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited that you're here because you've been coaching for, is it 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, I did my first coaching training in 2005, so I guess it's going on 16 at this point.
So 16 years. So that means you've got a lot of knowledge to drop. And, you know, what I'm more excited about anything is the advice that I typically give is all around strategy, process, and practical advice. And you're like the exact opposite.
Right. Well, I mean, I give strategy, but yeah, I'm not the data science left-brained expert on everything, but yes.
Yeah, so I'm just so pumped for this because I feel like without the stuff you're about to give, like even if they're doing my strategy, it's not going to work. They need to be in the right mindset, the right headspace so that they can land the partner. So I think this is just so vital and so important for the folks on my channel. So without further ado, what we're going to get into is how to feel confident and secure if you have an anxious attachment style. And I'm going to be anxious for a moment. Folks, can you hear us? And say hello in the chat. All I want you to do is say, can you hear us? So give us a yes. And then once you get the yes out, give us your first name and where you're watching from. I always get a kick where people
Yes, I know, just the internet and how we can connect with people all over the world. I love it.
I'm Mike. I'm in LA. Valerie, where are you?
Gosh, well, I'm actually in Northwest Arkansas at the moment, but I'm a New Yorker.
No, all right. So they can hear us. Thank you, Holly. Holly, where are you located? Alabama.
Oh,
Ooh.
cool. Yeah, I can't see what anyone's typing. Just.
Oh, you can't?
So you know. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I have to be logged into this thing to see more.
Here, I'll put it on the screen for you. There you go.
Oh, there you go, Holly from Alabama. Hi.
There you go. I'll put them on for you.
Not that far, I guess, on the same longitude.
All right. So, Valerie.
Mike.
Let's get into this. So, first of all, how do you know if you have an anxious attachment style?
Yeah, I mean, I'll use what we just did as an example because I always love bringing real things into it. Like, so you felt anxious about the mic, right? And you reached out, and what would have happened if you didn't get any response back, right? You probably would have started thinking about it, like, what's going on? What's the problem? And how can I fix it, right? You would have felt more anxious and more determined to fix the problem. And so people with an anxious attachment style, what that means is that the sensor of how connected you are to somebody is just overactive. It's we all have what's called an attachment system in our brain. And its job is to monitor the state of the emotional connection between us and the primary people that we care about in our lives. And if that is overly sensitive, then you're what's called anxious preoccupied attachment style. And if you're, just lower than average sensitive, then you have what's called an avoidant attachment style. And if you're secure, what that means is that you know how to respond to feeling disconnected in a healthy way. So I'll give an example. I mean, that was just like a really simple one that just happened, right? Just for people to be like, oh, I would feel more anxiety if I didn't get a response, right? But so we'll take a simple example of a guy texts you and you text back, right away because you're in a rapport, and then he doesn't get back to you for 12 hours. I think everyone would wonder what's going on. But if you have an anxious attachment style, the more time goes on between like an hour and 12 hours, you don't hear back. You get more anxious. You don't know how to calm down. You start ruminating. You start thinking maybe he's not into you. You start thinking maybe I should reach out to him just to see if he's okay, and it's only been 12 hours, but I mean, I understand that it's, good etiquette and respectful to get back sooner. We just don't know what's going on with him. And people who have an anxious attachment style get preoccupied about that. It's also called preoccupied attachment style, that you can't get it out of your mind, and it prevents you from being productive that day because you're wondering about what's happening. People with an avoidant attachment style tend, this all started First of all, attachment research has been going on since the 1960s. And it was around the 1980s, attachment started out as being the study of how the styles that babies attach to their primary caretakers. So this goes back like 0 to 18 months. If your parents were emotionally available, they picked you up a lot, they comforted and soothed you, you could tell that it, as you got a little older, 2, 3, and you had a feeling, they mirrored it back to you. It's okay to feel that way. They would give you support and help you figure out how to feel better. Then you probably have a secure attachment style, which is primarily a belief system and a skill set. So that's the first thing I want to say about attachment, is that even if you have an anxious or an avoidant or a disorganized, which is the 4th style, attachment style, which is kind of a combination of anxious and avoidant, that it's not a pathology. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. What it means is that it's a belief system and a skill set that is based on survival, just old patterns of fear and survival and insecurity. And you can reprogram the belief system and you can learn the skills of secure attachment. So the beliefs of someone that has secure attachment are: other people care about my feelings and needs. It's okay to have them. It's okay to voice them. It's easy to be close. I deserve to receive, to be treated well, and to, if somebody showers love on me, I deserve to receive it. And when someone's really emotionally available, I can handle it. It feels good to be close to the person. It makes me feel like intimacy is intimacy, and intimacy is easy. It's easy for you to feel close to people. And so that's, both the belief system and the skill set for secure attachment is how to do that, right? And so if your parents were kind of, and no fault of theirs necessarily, they could have been working, for survival. But regardless, children have attachment needs. And if your parents were really available sometimes, but not enough, you didn't know when you were going to get it, and the only way you got attention was to kind of get louder, then you never learned how to comfort and soothe your anxiety, but you know how important it is to be close. So all you know to do is to kind of like reach out and get demanding and clingy when you get anxious, because that was what worked when you were little, right? And so unfortunately, what happens when we get triggered is that we go into fight or flight. And what that means is that the blood drains out of our thinking brain and it goes into our arms and legs so we can fight or run away. And people that have an anxious attachment style usually go into fight mode. They don't feel safe expressing or feeling their vulnerability or soothing their vulnerability. They just kind of reach out and go, "What's up?" It's disrespectful to not get back to me within 12 hours, or, like they'll make the person wrong. They'll, act passive aggressive. Like they'll be like, "Oh, fine. Well, I'm going to make plans with my girlfriends then," or they'll, keep score, or they'll get manipulative, but underneath it, they're scared of being abandoned. And because they knew how painful it was when their parents were there sometimes and not enough as a kid. And the healing of that, which I'll talk about, is just, healing the wounds around it, challenging your limiting beliefs and learning the skills of secure attachment. And then if your parents were either on opposite end of this extreme, usually like neglectful, so that the baby, usually, it used to be common sense, although it was not, but it used to be common advice to just let babies cry themselves to sleep, because otherwise they're going to be spoiled. Like that's what it used to be for a period of time believed. And that created adults that have avoidant attachment. Because when a baby, it's not black and white like that, but that's what they're discovering. Because if a baby or a young child has to soothe themselves, the only way you learn how to soothe yourself is if an adult soothes you, and you learn by being guided by them. They're not like, "Oh, I'm going to teach you." No, they pick you up and comfort you and soothe you. And that's how you learn to do that for yourself. But if they don't do it enough, or if you don't learn it at all, then we just learn coping strategies that are like, suppressing feelings, pretending like we don't have them, pushing them under the carpet, or like any kind of addictive behavior, like eating or shopping, etc., to not feel our feelings. And it's people with avoidant attachment believe that everyone for themselves. And, it's also caused by the other end of the spectrum. If their parents were like smothering, We just, when we're pre-verbal, we have a intuitive belief about what love means based on what we received. And unfortunately, kids make it mean there's something wrong with them. Because if we make it mean that there's something wrong with our parents, then we could die, right? That's too scary. So kids make it mean there's something wrong with me. And if you have an anxious attachment style, then you're really scared of being abandoned. Usually people with an avoidant attachment style, they believe that it's either smothering or it's just painful to be too close to someone because other people don't really care and they're just scared of opening up and being rejected and it's not worth it. And it's just important to recognize that it's a defense behavior and it's a defense against feeling vulnerable because you never learned how to self-soothe. But if you do, then you can come from a secure place. And because the unfortunate truth is that people with an anxious attachment style tend to be attracted to people with an avoidant attachment style. It's, you can tell that if you keep being attracted to unavoidable people, unavoidable, you find unavailable people unavoidable. Then you probably have an anxious attachment style, which means that, you have to remember this stuff is pre-verbal. So based on what you received when you were very, very, very young, love equals, I always have to pine after the other person. They're not really going to be available. And so that's what feels familiar, right? Like it's important to understand that people beat themselves up because they're attracted to unavailable people. It's not your fault. It's important to understand that these are learnable skills, and that was the best information that your 2-year-old self had to go on to make a decision about what love equals, and to have compassion for yourself that you made that decision out of survival, right? Because you needed to understand what love is in order to wrap your mind around why you didn't feel good. This must be what love is, right? And then, but the healing, which I'm happy to talk about if you want. I know I've just been going on this monologue here.
Yeah, I want to ask a question if that's all right.
Yeah.
So what about our folks that start secure and then they get into relationships and one of two things happen? Either they keep getting broken up with, so they're abandoned by the man,
right?
Or they get cheated on.
Mm-hmm.
Do they switch attachment styles or what happens to them?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say about that, because I don't know if they switched attachment styles, but because the common thread there is that the guy's not being loyal. And I don't know if that's, sure, maybe if you're attracted to someone with an avoidant attachment style, it's not necessarily that you're anxious. It's anxious people are usually attracted to avoidant people because they seem confident. And people with an avoidant attachment style are usually attracted to people with an anxious attachment style because they feel wanted and they're not used to being close to people. So that feels good. Right. Another thing I'll say is that you can change depending on who you're with, which I think is a better answer to that question. Because I don't know what happened. There's many factors involved. There's masculine, feminine energy, the fact that we tend to attract people that mirror all of our beliefs back to us. So I imagine there might have been a similar belief going on under the surface of the woman that you're talking about, which, I don't know her, of course, but something like, if someone really gets to know me, they'll leave or they won't, or they won't love me. Because in either case, being left or being cheated on. Now, I don't want to say that was her fault. Obviously, it's the guy's fault if he's leaving or cheating and he's doing it. And leaving in an immature way. Obviously, cheating is immature. So you didn't cause him to do that. But at the same time, there was some, and we could do a whole nother interview about this, but usually there's red flags that are sort of glossed over in the beginning that would have led you to see that this type of guy doesn't keep his commitments, or he leaves when the going gets tough, or because, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? It's his character. And because you missed those blind spots that there might be something going on there where there's a limiting belief that this is what love is people leave. when they really get to know me, which means that if really deep down, I'm too much. So identifying that belief is the first part of the healing, if that makes sense. So that's, I don't know if that's like an attachment issue with her or just a limiting belief going on, but insecure attachment is caused by both a belief system and just a lack of a skill set, and obviously the skill set includes healing the wounds, but attachment wounding is like there's attachment wounding and then there's trauma. As a coach, I'm not trained on healing trauma, but attachment wounding is developmental wounding. It's just these needs didn't get met. And we made up beliefs to compensate for that, to deal with the pain. And the beliefs are something like love equals I'm pining after somebody who's not really available. And that's how I know I'm in love, because that's how it felt. Right. And I mean, I want to say this is really painful. I mean, I have my own version of this, that I've healed for the most part. And it's so painful to feel that. And what I want to say is, once you peel back the hood, it's not true. Right. And so that's why the first step in healing insecure attachment is looking at the beliefs, is looking at, it makes sense that we, let's say your father was narcissistic and he couldn't mirror your feelings because he wasn't capable of it. That of course you're going to make that mean as a 2-year-old that your feeling is not okay to have them. That like, if I open up about my feelings, I'm going to be shut down or rejected. So it's not safe to share them. Of course you're going to make that mean that as a 2-year-old. And so therefore, in relationships now, if you have that belief that it's not okay to share your feelings, you probably push your feelings under the carpet, you miss red flags, and then you wind up being attracted to somebody who doesn't let you share your feelings because you just missed the red flags in the beginning because you don't share your feelings. So you don't know that 6 months down the line, when you do, he's going to judge you and shut you down, right? And so that's the predicament that I see a lot of my clients in. Is it's just the programming that causes us to miss red flags. And it's very painful, but there is a solution. And that's really going back and identifying the limiting beliefs and the developmental needs that didn't get met, and learning how to reprogram the limiting beliefs and learning how to meet those needs for yourself now, because that's what reprograms. It's almost like we have a thermostat, like an internal thermostat of how much love we can take in. And so when we have these beliefs, like it's not okay to share my feelings, or I'm not wanted, or, if somebody really gets to know me, they'll leave. If we have these beliefs, then it's important to understand they're a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? We act out of these beliefs and we attract people like that, right? It's like we do actions that push people away. And so it's important to reprogram them at a belief level. And I have my own process for doing that, but it's basically a combination of challenging it cognitively, like what's the truth about that? The truth is that your parents were busy, right? And they had jobs where they needed to work and they couldn't take care of you. It's not that you didn't deserve it, right? And so I help people do the inner child work around that. So the basic steps around healing anxious attachment, which I can go over, are number one, challenging the limiting beliefs. So on a surface level, that means that, you challenge the story like I just demonstrated. But then on a deeper level, it's doing the inner child work, because just because your mind knows that's not true, it doesn't mean it changes how it feels. So I have a guided meditation if people want to ask for it, where I guide you into feeling the anxiety as a sensation in your body and really learning how to self-soothe, which is like turning towards that feeling like you would turn towards a child, and comforting and soothing the feeling. And I teach a lot of self-soothing techniques, because the thing is, when you're in fight or flight, that's not the right time to reach out to him or to take action. That's the time to self-soothe until you feel more secure. And so that's doing the inner child work. And it's also then discovering what need you have, right? Or what value you have. Like if it's this guy that didn't text you back for 12 hours, then the value or the need is responsiveness. And then if you just reach out from the anxious place and you're just like, hey, it's disrespectful to not get back to me for 12 hours, then you're going to push him away because you're making him wrong, because that's coming out of the anxiety, right? So it's important to self-soothe enough. And the way you know that you self-soothed enough, and, you know, I can share tools and tips for how to do that if you want, but the way you know that you self-soothe enough is if you're able to see, to guess what's going on for him. Because that's something that when you're in fight or flight, you can't do. Like, if you think you're being chased by a tiger, you're not going to wonder, like, how's the tiger feeling? Like, you're just going to run away, you know? So in that moment, if you're in fight or flight, your mind is making him into the tiger. You know, like, he doesn't care. He's probably not that into me, or maybe he's cheating on me, or, you know, maybe he's like, you know, another one again who's unavailable. Like, you're in story about it, you know, rather than actually, what are the facts on the ground is that he's not getting back to me because why? What are the legitimate reasons why he might not be? You know, that, like, what's the positive intention? Maybe he's busy at work. You know, maybe he's, you know, taking care of his kids. I don't know when he sees his kids. If you can get into that curious place, then you've done enough self-soothing, you know, to reach out and be curious. And then when he gets in touch with you, you'll be able to say, like, hey, what was going on? And I'm curious. And then you can talk about your values in an inspiring way. So that's the outer work. The inner work is self-soothing enough to be able to identify your feelings and needs and get your needs met so you feel better, right? So in this case, it was responsiveness. So, I mean, the other ways to get it met are to just make sure the other people in your life are responsive. Like, make sure you have responsive girlfriends, and, you know, so you feel like that need is met enough. Because it's, you know, getting that need met in harmonious ways also is part of the outer work of creating secure attachment, that you're not just putting all your needs on this guy, because that's part of the old program, you know, that we're acting under. So the inner work is getting yourself to the place where you can feel what's going on, where you can sense, where you can be curious about what's going on for him. And the outer work is learning how to, you know, communicate in an inspiring way that talks about what's going on for him so he feels seen, and talks about your values so that you feel seen. And then you can discover if there is something that you can create together, right? That's what a relationship is you're creating a culture together. And the culture of secure attachment is just being authentic. And so you might say, like, hey, what was going on with you? And, oh, that makes total sense. And I'm just curious, like, if it's, you know, a first date, you don't necessarily want to go this deep, but if you're creating a relationship with someone, you want to explore whether he has your values from a secure place. So that's why it's important that you do the self-soothing first. So that might sound like, you know, oh, that makes total sense that you were busy at work, and does that happen for you a lot? And yeah, you know, it sounds like you just like go all the way into this hole and come out, and wow, that makes so much sense. And I understand it better now. But if you're, and then you might not be upset, and then you'll know for next time, right? But if you're creating a relationship and you value responsiveness, and that's something that you know you need, you can say, you know, if you're feeling secure, hey, you know, it's really important to me. Like, I just value responsiveness. You know, what happens to me when I text someone and they respond within like a couple hours is then I feel like there's this even back and forth, and I feel connected, and I just feel uplifted and turned on. And like, if I'm in a committed relationship, then that's what's important to me, is that the person I'm with responds in a timely manner. But what about you? How does that land with you? What do you want? What's your value around responsiveness, right? And you'll be able to collaborate with him. And let's say he's like, well, for me, it's, you know, you're right, 12 hours is a long time. Let's say 8 hours, and you come up with an agreement together, you know, and that's how you know you're coming from a secure place, is if you feel hope that you can solve the problem together. You're not just blaming him and making him wrong because you think that he doesn't care. And so that's why the belief system work is important, because if you try to do these skills, if you try to say the right things from a belief that he doesn't care, or, you know, people are just going to get pushed away, or if you express yourself, it's going to be too much. If you believe that and you try to say these things, it's going to come out in an angry way because you're going to be angry about it, right? And then you're probably going to make him wrong. So that's why it's important to do the self-soothing first.
So I want to go to this specific example because I think, honestly, I see this come up a lot for folks dating. And because we're texting so much, there's constantly a mismatch on when people like to respond via text. Like we all seen different people. You've got people where you text and it's like, boom, like there's a response like right away. And then you've got people you text and it could be 2 hours to 8 hours.
Or 2 days.
Yeah, or 2 days.
Right.
So let's say you're dating and you're the type that responds somewhat quickly. Like, when you see it, you respond.
Which I don't think that's bad, by the way. I know there's these rules, about, that you should not invest more than he is, and then you don't want to respond more than he does. And I don't know. I just think if you're trying to follow rules, that you're being in your masculine energy, and I'm supposed to do this in a certain way. Right.
Yeah, like I'm not talking about rules. Yeah. I don't have rules for this.
No, I know. I wasn't saying you were, but it's like I just wanted to say that I don't really believe in those rules. Okay, go on.
Yeah, just be your authentic self and respond when you respond. Anyway, so we've got the people watching who respond when they see it, usually within 5 minutes to 2 hours when they see it. And then we've got a guy who, let's say, is maybe a little more avoidant or just busy, focused.
Right.
And he sometimes doesn't respond for 4 to 8 hours. Would you suggest trying to force this relationship if people don't want to change? Or is this just, your date 4, date 5, is this something you throw back in the water and go find someone more aligned?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And my answer to that really depends on how does he respond when you respond to that behavior in a secure way? Because that's really what makes a difference. Guys are going to be clueless, and that doesn't mean anything other than that they're clueless, And the thing is that, because every woman's different, and every man's different too, but I mean, let's face it, I feel like people are complicated, right? Men are complicated, women are complicated, but I would say, like, in terms of what makes a woman happy, we're all so different. And you can't assume just because he's clueless, and he's responding, taking a day to respond or whatever, that he has an avoidant attachment style and write it off. What I would do is I would first of all self-soothe to make sure that you're in a curious place. And then what's important is to exactly what I just said, say what's important to you. If it's date 4 or 5, you're building a culture already. So it's appropriate in date 4 or 5 to say what I just gave that script for, which is like, oh, I totally get what's going on for you. Like, I'm curious about him first, but then, hey, we're getting to know each other more and we're seeing each other more and I'm feeling closer to you. And it's important that when, in order for me to feel open and safe, that if I want to create a culture of responsiveness, and this is what it looks like for me. When I text you, you get back in a certain amount of time, whatever's important to you. What do you think about that? Is that something important to you too? And then see how he responds. Because if he responds in a collaborative way where he's willing to work with you, then he probably doesn't have a severe avoidant attachment style. Because the attachment style is based on, do we feel safe making agreements with people, collaborating, keeping agreements, like being close, sharing feelings, solving problems together, feeling like we have each other's back. And so you want to try to create those things with him, in a feminine way, and see if he agrees and does it, then he's available for some kind of partnership, and then just keep doing more of that.
Let's say, I'll give you a very specific example.
Yeah.
Our guy is not quite being collaborative. He's presenting who he is. And he says, I really like you. I'm into you. But with that being said, I really value being present. And whenever I'm doing anything, I put my phone on the other side of the room and then I try to go check it every 4 or 8 hours. And that's just my system. So if he gives you that, is that something that you're now just going to change and be like, oh, well, I guess I have to wait 4 hours for this guy to text back?
Well, first of all, I would see if he really does that with you. When he's with you, does he never check his phone? I mean, because that's pretty cool. That means that he's present. And then you can see well, is that worth it to be with a guy like that? Because when he's with me, he's totally present. He's not looking at his phone at all. Is that worth it then to know that when he's not with me, he's going to be doing that with other people? Right. I mean, that's, I think, an individual thing. But if he says that and then he doesn't do that with you, then screw him. He's being a hypocrite.
I love that. So you're seeing if this is really his character. So then when he's with you, is the phone on the other side of the room and he's there with you?
Totally, because that's
I love that.
red flags are not just like how he shows up. It's checking, is who he says he is really how he shows up, just observing that over time. And if you're present and not making stories up, and I mean, I want to say that we all make stories up, right? Everybody does. It's like you just want to try to catch your stories and try to see what's actually true, but we're always going to be making stories up. I don't want to seem like I'm making us wrong for that. But if you're in a story about how he doesn't care or how he's not available, just check it. Don't call yourself out on the story necessarily on date 5. I mean, that's something to do when you're, in a committed relationship with someone or someone who's really doing personal growth work. But, check it by getting curious. Like, hey, I noticed that when you are, I mean, it seems like a rudimentary example that we keep using the same example that a guy doesn't get back to us. I mean, although that's typical with avoidant attachment. But another thing with avoidant attachment is men who they shut down during conflict. They don't want to talk about it, like stonewalling behavior. And so the way to address that is, first of all, to recognize that it's a cycle you get caught in. So if you are making him wrong, then that's going to trigger him and he'll get overwhelmed with, feeling like he's failing, and that's what will push him away. So if you are able to self-soothe and talk about your feelings and needs, in terms of like, hey, you didn't do anything wrong and I need this thing. So that would be like in the example of the guy not responding to conflict. Like, let's say, you live together and, he said he'd do the dishes and he doesn't. I mean, we're taking simple examples, but this is one that like a lot of people, I've been guilty of nagging my husband for that too. So I think what's important is to recognize it's important to start out with being curious there too. Because if he is capable of being inspired to get more comfortable with conflict, you have to make it safe for him, which means that you're not making him wrong. You're talking about, hey, I feel when I walk by the sink really gross. Can we talk about it? I trust that we can, this isn't working the way it is right now. Let's find something that works for both of us. Like if he shows up to the table when you act collaboratively and you empower him to solve the problem, is he able to be inspired that it's safe? And in order to inspire him, you have to be willing to do the self-soothing work within yourself, because if you come at him with anger and making him wrong and blame, then it's just going to push him away. And, you'll have confirmation that he shies away from conflict. And in that case, you should just leave if you're not, because in order to heal the dynamic, you have to be willing to do the inner work to heal yourself and then see if he's capable of being inspired. But obviously, if it's the 5th date and you find out that he's conflict avoidant and you're not that attached yet, then maybe you just want to tell him that he's not a match. But if you're living together and he avoids conflict, then maybe you can look at it as a healing opportunity for yourself to learn how to self-soothe and inspire him. So it's such an individual basis, whether I guide people to stay with someone or leave.
Yeah, I mean, as from the male perspective, like I love what you're saying, and it really holds true. I've been in both types of relationships where a woman made me to feel wrong, and then when a woman inspired me. And I want to give like a quick example, like simple stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Mike, you're so dirty. Like this place looks awful. Like you're living together.
Yeah, that's not inspiring.
Like, and as a man, like I'm doing my thing. Like, oh, I must have forgot to vacuum or whatever. And that just like, it's dirty. I'm wrong. Like it's very confrontational.
Yeah. And it's important to understand what happens for men in that moment is it causes a cortisol spike, like like an adrenaline rush kind of thing where you feel like you're being attacked and like, you're like, what? This doesn't feel good. Right. And that's not inspiring to change.
Yeah. It's not good. Like a man, like we're meant to be protectors and fighters. And like when we have our woman coming at us, it feels very weird because like, wait, I'm supposed to be protecting you, but all of a sudden we're fighting. Like this feels weird.
Right. And it does. And a lot of men cause like a short circuit reaction where you're just like, wait, she's fighting me, but I can't fight her. It's sort of like a short circuit. And then you shut down and you don't know what to do. And, Yeah, so that's not, I mean, but I think it's important to understand that the reason why we blame and make wrong is because that's like, think about it. How do 2-year-olds act when they're left alone in a supermarket? Because this is when we develop these strategies. They either hide in a corner and pretend like, they're fine until someone finds them, or they scream and yell at the top of their lungs like, ah! Because that's how they're going to get their people's attention. And unfortunately, when we're in fight or flight, our brains go back to those strategies.
Absolutely. And then just to finish, I have 2 things. The rest of the example of when I was with someone who inspired me, same example of like, maybe the place is dirty. She's like, oh my God, it is so sexy when you vacuum. And it makes me so excited. And then next time I'm vacuuming, she's like, oh my God, your arms look so big in that shirt. And then like I finish vacuuming, big kiss, like, thank you for vacuuming. Like, you make me feel like so happy and so excited to be with you. And you're like so taking care of me. And ever since then, like, I would just like love to vacuum. I'm like, she just gives me compliments and then gives me like a big kiss after.
Exactly. It's like, as women, it's important for us to understand the power that we have to inspire. It's just, and in terms of the healing of anxious attachment, like I said, it really is those components, not that it's, 1, 2, 3 simple, but, it's learning how to heal the limiting beliefs. And I do have a process for that in my free gift, which I'm excited to talk about. And then learning how to soothe, the emotional part of you so that you can be vulnerable and soothe your vulnerable feelings so that you feel more secure. You can learn how to get your needs met so you feel more secure. That's the inner work. And then the outer work is learning the skills of how to have that inspiring communication with others, learning the skills of how to be curious and really, instead of making assumptions, get curious about others and listen to them and making them feel heard, which anxious attachment people really do have a big heart and they care. And it's a gift that you have. So you're probably already good at empathizing with people. And then it's just about then standing up for what you want, for what you deserve. And, if you're angry, I mean, I want to say this, like I was just talking to a client earlier who healed anxious attachment, and now she's with her boyfriend and they're talking about getting engaged, and she used to be attracted to unavailable men. And so she was saying that healing, she used to think, oh yeah, like when she was angry and she was making her ex wrong, that she did deserve to be, treated well, to be treated with, to feel wanted and to be treated with, to be loved and cherished and adored. She used to think that she did deserve it. But the fact that she used to be angry, the anger actually comes from that belief that you don't deserve it. Because when she really healed that limiting belief that she didn't deserve it, now she knows on an intuitive level that she deserves it. So therefore she believes that her boyfriend wants to treat her the way that she deserves to be treated. And then when she asks for it, it comes from a secure place. So if you think you're secure, but you're angry that you're not getting it, there might be a vestige of this pattern of love equals that you have to pine or you don't deserve, that you can still heal the limiting beliefs. And I do have a process for how to do that in my free gift. So all the inner work I have a process for in my free gift.
All right, awesome. Let me introduce that. So in the comments, you were asking, who is this lovely woman speaking? So this is Valerie Greene. Mm-hmm. And if you type in Valerie Greene in YouTube, you can find her channel. But to get access to a lot more of her information, if you go and get her free gift down below, that'll get you on her email list. So then you'll start getting more acquainted with her content, her YouTube channel, and all the things she's putting out there, all for free. But also, as we're taking care of some of this stuff, everyone go in the comments, and if you have any questions about attachment style or anything around dating, relationships, sex, online dating, anything you want to ask Valerie or I, go plop that in the comments, because we're going to be shifting over to the Q&A. So we'll try to go in order as best I can. I'm not doing this with an assistant, so bear with me. I'm going to be clicking. But I would love for all of you to get Valerie's free gift. She's got an ebook, and I'm going to have her explain it. It's break free of old patterns to attract lasting love. Valerie, tell us about that.
Yes. Yeah. So the book really is my outline for how to do the inner work. It's not specifically for anxious attachment, because it really is it also works for people that have any kind of insecure attachment, because what it is about how to, first of all, challenge the limiting beliefs that, the subconscious ones about deserving love. And I list a bunch in there, and I have a process in there because it's important to really challenge those stories, as I talked about. And then I have a process for how to do the self-soothing and how to really determine what it is that you need. And once you determine it, then that's the inner work. And then you've healed your belief about whether or not he cares, then you can then do the outer work. And at the end of the free book, of course, I talk about my 234-page book, The Commitment Roadmap. And in that, I talk about, of course, all the outer work, the communication skills to build secure attachment. But the free gift is a really great introduction, and it's my guide to the inner work. So I'm happy to give you a taste, and hopefully that really helps you to feel more confident and secure.
Hey, is anyone else having trouble with the free gift? I just saw in the comments we're having a little problem, so I just tried to click it again.
Oh,
that's weird. So let me try. I'm just going to try and click it one more time.
I'm so sorry if there's a problem. I mean, if there is, I'll have to reach out to my web designer right away. I did it and it worked.
Oh, it's not working. That's a bummer.
All right, then. Well, I mean, I will right after this, right after we end the video, I'll troubleshoot that and I'll get that fixed. So I'll say that I'll have it working in, 24 hours. I'll reach out to my web person if it's not.
Hey, folks. I'm so sorry about the free gift not coming. I definitely want to make sure we get it to you. So if you email me at mike@easydatingcoach.com, I will manually send the link to all of you that email me. So that's at easydatingcoach.com. So Easy Dating Coach, I probably need you to be able to spell that. Let's see. No, that's not it. How do I get it up there? There it is, Easy Dating. So the letter E, the letter Z, so then Mike, and then all one word, easydatingcoach.com. I will mail all of you the free gift. All right, so let's answer some questions. You're welcome.
I'm sorry about that, guys. I don't want to not be present and fix it now, but I'll do it right after we end.
Yeah, we'll get it fixed. I have a feeling it was something I did technical. I think probably Valerie gave me the right link and I messed it up somehow, so I apologize. But we will get that fixed. It's weird. I had it working earlier. Anyway, being anxious. Let's ask some questions. Let's see. Oh, this one. Hi, what to do? For those, I'm going to read these because one of my people told me they treat this like a podcast and don't watch us and just listen. So, hi, what to do if a long distance boyfriend wanted to break up with me? Is it okay to not talk with him for a week, yet checking his text messages? And then she goes on to say, when should I get back in touch with him? Yet I don't know where he's staying in another place. He wants to call, yet I'm confused what to do. Think.
Yeah, I mean, breakups are complicated. I would need to know in order to tell you what to do, why he broke up.
She goes on.
But did he break up and is this his pattern? Like, does he break up and then, just because he's feeling overwhelmed and then come back? Like, has he done this before? Right. How far along was the relationship? But anyway, because there's so many factors involved. But absolutely, I'd say if he breaks up, mirror his level of investment, which means that, don't reach out to him. He's the one that broke up. If you're in your feminine energy, that you would only receive what he's giving. And sure, of course, it's okay to respond if he reaches out. But, the question is, for what purpose? Like, what are you intending to do when you respond? Are you intending to recreate the relationship? Do you want to get back with him? What was the reason that it wasn't working for you and for him? And how can you work through that stuff? But like, the general formula I give for breakups, is absolutely no contact, like value yourself and only respond to him when he's reaching out. But from there, I mean, the advice that I would give you depends on the uniqueness of what you want, right? I think I have a video on my channel for if you want to ask for the link in the comments, I could send you a link to a video. I'm not sure if I have it unlisted or not, that I did to guide people on how to heal from how to get your ex back, how to heal from a breakup and inspire your ex back. So I do have general advice I give about that, but I would have to know more about your situation.
It sounds like we broke up because of distance and thinking that I wouldn't go see him.
Okay, well, I mean, like, was that true? Like, thinking, was he just assuming that you wouldn't go see him and you really were? Or who was thinking that you wouldn't go see him?
And then perhaps sexual things as well, and he's called a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't usually do coaching like this. I mean, I'm happy to answer questions. It's just, I do think that in terms of the way I work with people, I offer a 90-minute session to figure out everything about your history and patterns and the relationship problems, how they've manifested so far, what you want, what he wants, what you've already done so far to try to heal the issue. And, what are your patterns, his patterns, and what do you want, and what does he want? And then I can give you advice.
Yeah, I mean, let's not discount what you're saying there. That is advice. That's to basically find out what he wants, what you want, and then to figure out if they're lined up. And if they're not, then it's probably for the best that they broke up. And if things are lined up, maybe there's just been some miscommunication. And so I think,
like, if he thinks that you weren't going to go see him, but you really were, I mean, then you're going to want to clear up that misunderstanding if he wants to. I wouldn't reach out to him proactively to clear it up. If you're really in your feminine energy, that would mean if he asks you, how you're doing, then you mirror his level of investment and you say that you're confused and you want to clarify some things, right? Like, that's being authentic. And he'll say, what do you want to clarify? And you'll say, I sense there's a misunderstanding about me visiting you. I'd like to clear that up. And if he's willing to, then you can.
Let me just clarify this. Liz W, the link isn't working. Yeah. We figured that out. My friend Liz, we're going to fix it after we get off this.
I'm so sorry. I checked it earlier too.
It was working. Anyway, it's not working now. Liz, if you email me, I will get over that free gift. My email again is mike@easydatingcoach.com. And the easy is spelled E letter Z. So mike@easydatingcoach.com. Just say, don't even write me much. Just put free gift in the subject. I'll know what it is. Don't waste too much time. And I'll get it.
Also, if you want to watch this on YouTube later, the link will be below the video, right? So, like, we'll fix it.
Oh, I like that strategy. I'm going to try that. All right, we'll give it a go. I have the link. Let's see if that works.
It looks like in the summary, the link is cut off. Maybe just put the link in the comments. That's what people are saying. Because it's a long link.
So maybe, YouTube cut it off. I copied the whole thing, but let's give it a try.
Yeah, put it in the comments. I think that'll probably work. That makes me feel good if the link was cut off rather than.
All right, that is the full link, so hopefully you can click it. I don't know if you're able to click it, but we'll find out.
If you just paste it in the YouTube comments, I don't know, we're in this other app, so.
Yeah, that is the YouTube. That should be there.
Should work.
Oh yeah, it is clickable. Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully that fixed it.
Yay. I think it was just whatever program was used was cutting the link off. So I'm glad it works. But yeah, the link is really it is an excerpt of 2 chapters of my longer book, and it's the excerpt where I talk about doing the inner work, because that is the inner work of healing is so important, because I think what's important to understand is that it is hard, to do the inner healing work. Of course it's hard. I mean, I do it on a regular basis myself. Now I feel a lot more secure than I used to be, and I'm in a happy marriage, and it's like layers of an onion, of course, healing. But it's so worth it, right? Because that Harvard study came out a few years ago that followed people over 70 years. I think it followed men from when they were like children up until when they were in their 70s. And what determined happiness more than anything else in their lives was the quality of their relationships. And so doing this work is so worth it, because then you'll get to be in a relationship that's, happy and healthy and wise, and where you get to be emotionally connected and passionate, and you get to feel adored, and you get to be with somebody who truly loves you and supports you. And, that's what I have. And I'm just infinitely grateful. I just realized I'm not wearing my ring, and it's just because I was taking a shower earlier. I took it off. Doesn't mean anything else.
So does anyone else have questions around either attachment style, something for Valerie, something for me about either online dating strategy, what's going on in your dating life? And also I'd love to hear from you folks, like for a lot of parts of at least the United States and around the world, well, parts of around the world, COVID has slowed down. Are you getting back into dating? And if so, what are you seeing? Are people receptive of online dating? And even around attachment, like what's happening there? Like, are you finding yourself to be anxious, secure, avoidant? Actually, I'd love to hear that. What attachment, if you've done the test, have you found that you scored? Or if just by listening to this, what do you think you are? And then also, what do you think you're dating? And then what, if you want to include in the comments what you'd like to date or what you're open to, that'd be interesting. So here's Lisa, our first one to write in. So attracting the same kind of avoidance. Any thoughts on that, Valerie?
Yeah, and I'd be interested to hear how you like the free gift, because what happens is when you attract the same type of person again in a different body, what's usually going on is that is what feels familiar. I'm just reading the attracting the same kind of words. Okay. Yeah. Like something like remember back to, and it was either your father or a significant man in your life as a kid, or it might've been your first boyfriend, which is a big imprint, that you learned somehow. You made it mean that love means that the person's not really available when I need them. And that's what feels familiar. And so you're going to keep being attracted to that because that's what feels familiar. And the reprogramming of that is challenging that limiting belief, but it's also reprogramming that thermostat inside of us. If we set the thermostat to like, all right, the person's not really that available and that's what feels comfortable. In order to raise the thermostat, we need to do the self-soothing and identify the need. And then it sounds like in this case, if he's an avoidant, the need might be responsiveness, like we talked about, right? And so that's cultivating close relationships with friends and family where they got your back and they'll get back to you right away. And you feel that'll reset your thermostat that you deserve it. And then the art is not committing prematurely to unavailable men. Like you might still be attracted to them, but if you learn to see the red flags on dates 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., you're going to let him go before you get attached. And then it's the art of recognizing that you might actually not be attracted to secure men at first because they might occur to you as needy because it doesn't feel familiar. Like there must be something wrong with him. He's being too nice, right? He's like treating me too well. Like maybe he's needy. And to notice those thoughts within yourself and to give the guys that you're not attracted to right off the bat a chance. Now, that doesn't mean that you should date guys that you're repulsed by. Like, if you're not really turned on by him, but you're not really turned off by him, then go on a few dates and see if your attraction grows over time and see if when you're expressing your feelings and needs, he's responsive and you feel safe with him. And that can sometimes make you develop an attraction. But, that's and then if you don't, I talk about that in my book, The Commitment Roadmap too, like how to navigate that, how to navigate that reprogramming phase where you're like, okay, I'm not really attracted to this guy, but I'll give him a chance. But then how do I know? It's a delicate art to really slow down and pay attention to. And then the art of how to let someone go if they're not a match, which a lot of people are scared of too, because we don't want to reject the guy, and we're empathic and we don't want him to feel bad, but it's just important to recognize that the longer you wait to do it, the worse it's going to feel. So you might as well rip the Band-Aid off now, I think men appreciate that.
So I actually was very interested in this question. What does it mean when he starts to yell if I ask him about if he's using social media to date people?
So yell how? Yell about what? I mean, it definitely means that he's, feeling something about it. Like, so is what you're talking about that if you're like, hey, this girl is liking your post, or you're using social media to date people, then you're accusing him of that. So he's going to feel attacked, and yelling isn't mature, but it's his strategy of defending himself when he feels like he's being attacked. So what I would say, I teach people in terms of the outer work of communication skills, there's this concept of the circles. And that's kind of like, yes, it can be a heart. But the circles are a Venn diagram where, two overlapping circles. In your circle is your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And in his circle is his thoughts, feelings, and actions. And men really value their autonomy. So if you go into his circle and say, hey, are you doing this bad thing? You're going into his circle. You're talking about his thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? As opposed to staying in your own circle and speaking about your thoughts and your feelings and your needs and your desires, right? And so that would be like, hey, I noticed there's a lot of girls liking your posts, and I mean, I trust you and all. It's just like, I feel, kind of uncomfortable with how many girls versus guys are liking your posts, and, what's up with that? And why do you think that is? And, I just need to know more about what we're creating together in order to trust that we're not spreading our attention too thin. Social media can spread our attention too thin. So to start talking about, like, here's how I want to relate to social media. How do you want to relate to it? Here's how I want to use it. It can be kind of addictive. We can get pulled into it. This is the relationship I want to have with social media. What relationship do you want to have with it? Like, either be vulnerable and express, hey, I feel a little insecure when it's just women and not men responding. What reassurance can you give me around that? How are you using it? And get curious about him. Right? Because you're in your circle, you're sharing your feelings, your desires, and getting curious about him. Or you can bring it higher level and talk about what you want with social media and what he wants with social media, and are you on the same page? So those are two secure ways to talk about it, if that makes sense.
Love that answer. I'm going to ask my own question off this one because I thought of something cool. So I think she forgot a word, but I have a blank attachment style and seems to be dating an avoidant attachment style.
Makes sense. I mean, just because, like I said, the two are usually attracted to each other on a subconscious level. It's because we want to learn and grow, because you can learn and grow from each other. You're both insecure, but the anxious can learn how to be more self-sufficient, and the avoidant can learn to be more legitimize feelings and needs. And so you can learn and grow from each other. But like I said, on a sort of dark side level, it's because it's what feels familiar. And so, yeah, that it's really common, and it is an opportunity to heal if you both look at it that way. But sorry, you can ask a question.
Yes, thank you. So when we've got a guy that's pulling away, avoidant, afraid of emotion, and he seems to want to be a good partner, how do we inspire him to not run away from emotion?
Yes, that's such a good question. And I want to highlight here, like, a guy could have a secure attachment style, but he doesn't have a lot of modeling for how to be with strong emotions, and that's just socialization. Like, boys unfortunately are still encouraged to do things and create things and play games and not talk about feelings. I think it's changing. But so in order to make it safe, I mean, the first thing that I would say in order to make any behavior safe is to, like you were saying earlier, when, your partner is being really encouraging, like make him write anytime he opens up. If he happens to share how his day was, act really interested and act really appreciative, right? Like, oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel so much closer to you now. I love it when you share stuff like that, right? And then be affectionate and appreciate. So that will encourage him to do more of it. That's the high leverage, lowest hanging fruit kind of thing, right? Then, but I want to highlight there how, men thrive on appreciation. And so, then he's going to know he succeeded in making you happy and he'll want to do more of that. So that's like the most important thing. But then the second most important thing is staying in your circle and sharing on a soft, soft, energetic way that, it's important for you to open up first and then share some vulnerable things about your day and, things that you want him to listen to, but then set him up first. So say, hey, I really want, I know that, it might seem kind of foreign to you, but I want to share some emotional stuff that happened to me today and set him up first. Say, all I want you to do is listen and then give me empathy, which means like, oh, like if I did well, like give me encouragement. Like, oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Or like if I was struggling, just tell me like, oh, that seems really hard. Do you want me to give you a hug? That's really all I need. And then share vulnerable stuff. And then if he's awkward, kind of guide him in doing it. And then say, oh my God, that feels so much better. I feel so close to you now that you listen. I feel so supported by you. And so it's important that he can soothe your feelings first, and then he gets into a rhythm with that. And then you can say, I really love when you comfort and soothe my feelings. And I would really love to hear just something deeper that you want to share about yourself. And then I can support you in the same way, but you don't necessarily, men usually just want validation and not empathy, but I'm not, a lot of men want empathy too, right? It's people are people. But that's how you can ask for it, is like model for him, teach him first to support you, and then ask, like, oh, if you opened up more and I could just listen, then I would feel so much closer to you. Like, so are you willing to tell me what happened for you today? But it's model it first, right? Because otherwise he'll just feel like, it's an interrogation, but like the interrogator wouldn't sit there and be vulnerable first. So that kind of breaks the interrogation spell for him if you lead with your own vulnerability and then ask him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how much I love this. Like, it's just ingenious. As a male, like, especially as a male that used to fail, because I didn't understand women. Having a woman guide me, and every woman's different, right? So every woman on this wants to be heard a different way, wants to be validated a different way. And as men, we don't know what you want.
Right.
You guide us and say, hey, I'm going to tell you these things and I want a hug after. I want you to listen to me. I don't want you to solve any problems. I just want you to hear me and be there for me. And so if you guide him to that and then you talk to him and then at the end of it, you say like, thank you, you've made me feel better. He all of a sudden is like, whoa, that was awesome. I actually accomplished something where normally sometimes these conversations don't end very well because I try to solve it and then I get accused of not listening. And so this is so much better. So everyone, like, if rewind that when we're done, that part was absolute gold. And that as a man, and every man that you do this on will love it.
Yeah. I mean, and I learned the hard way, trust me. It's not like I, came out of the gate doing this. I used to make men wrong, and I still do make my husband wrong sometimes. And, then we're arguing. And then if I don't do that, if I rewind the clock and, stay in my circle and inspire him instead, then it always goes well. I mean, it's amazing.
All right. I'm going to answer this one if you don't mind. What do you do with a grumpy man who avoids communicating during the week, but is amazing and attentive in person? He won't talk on the phone, only texts.
Oh my God. I think this is actually really common.
Yeah, I think that is very common. Valerie talked about this earlier. If you're watching, It's basically just inspiring the guy. So you don't want to make him wrong. You're going to say, hey, John, let's use John. John, we have the most amazing relationship ever. It would feel so great to me if you would text or call me throughout the week. Like, it would just get me so excited to see that text or see that phone call. And I would love to talk to you. And then see what he does. What do you think, Valerie?
Totally. And I mean, seeing what he does, if it's the beginning of a relationship, then seeing what he does is really important, because if he doesn't do it and you get curious about it, I think it is important that if he says, okay, that you get curious about it, if he doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just curious. Like, I see you haven't done it. I'm sure there's a good reason why not. Tell me more. What would it take for you to do that? I want to understand more, so we can solve it together. Right? Like, then he's going to be like, oh, you're right. I get really busy at work. Are you familiar with that app? I heard there's an app that like reminds men to text their girlfriends. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right?
Like,
a lot of men are single focus and they forget, and then like you could set reminders on your phone or whatever. It seems contrived, but it's important to understand that, especially if your girlfriend has an anxious attachment style and you want to help her to heal it, that you'd be more responsive, right? I mean,
it's actually a win for men. Like, we're very task oriented and we love to check things off our box, like check things off. So if we had like an item of things we're doing today and one of them was like text girlfriend, if we got to then put that on our list and then accomplish it, it actually would boost testosterone and we'd like it. So
yes,
for men watching, it's a great idea.
Reminder, yeah, totally.
Holly Carroll,
still
that's
have
a good one. How do I keep a long distance relationship? This could be tough. How do I keep a long distance relationship exciting when there's an 11-hour difference in time via video call and text?
Yes. Okay. So 11-hour difference means it's like either early morning for you and night for him or vice versa. I mean, so the challenge is like you're both tired. Is that the challenge? I mean, that is challenging. I mean, because in terms of how to keep it interesting, I think there's tons. Like, if you want to go emotionally deep, there's tons of books on questions to ask to go emotionally deep. If you want to go physically deep, depending on how comfortable you feel with like role plays over video and all of that, physically, like turn up the heat physically, do fantasies, right? You can do the same things to keep the sex interesting over video as you do in real life. Obviously, it's not going to be as fulfilling as in real life. But if you want to keep it intellectually exciting, then you can play games together online. I mean, me and Mike have been talking about virtual reality. I mean, there's tons of fun things to do in virtual reality, even when there's an 11-hour time difference. But,
yeah,
all kinds of online games you can play together. You could read books together. When my husband was traveling for a few weeks to do something for his mom a couple of years ago, I read a novel to him on the phone. And, we just we talked about it together. So that could be more romantic than watching a movie. There's tons of creative things that you can do together when you're not with each other. But I know it's, not as good.
All right. I have this cat followed up. And I feel like Valerie's going to be softer on this than I am, but let's find out. So Cat B, she tried encouraging him. So let me read it, so the people doing podcasts. I've tried. He texts but won't call. Recently agreed to, though, but has not followed through.
Yes. So, I mean, what I recommend with men always is using the appreciation sandwich. I mean, I know you've probably heard of it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you text but won't call, then appreciate him for texting, say that helps you to feel more connected and that it's two-dimensional. And so you really need a phone call during the week to feel connected. And so then you get curious about what it would take.
All right. So I love that. So what if she tries this like 2 or 3 times and the guy's not delivering, then what?
Yeah, I mean, and 2 or 3 times implies that it's been 2 or 3 weeks, which implies that there's a momentum going in the relationship, that he's coming forward in other ways, like he is being available in person, right? So then you can share the impact of him not doing it, like not make him wrong, but go deeper in terms of getting vulnerable, which I wouldn't recommend until there's a momentum in the relationship. Not that you shouldn't be vulnerable, but you want to test him to see if he can handle it. And this might be the first time you test it, to say, hey, I totally get, because if you've talked to him a few times, you would have understood why he can't do it. And so it's important to validate that first. Totally get why you can't talk during the week, because you're in your head. You're not in your feelings, you're in your work mode, and you're not fun to talk to, and I get it. And I really want to brainstorm here, because this isn't working for me. Because what happens is I get totally open and heart open and body open when we're together. And then when we don't talk during the week, I start to feel more closed, and I start to feel just like disconnected from you. And then it just takes a lot of work to open myself back up. And I don't want to make you do that work either. I want to show up and just be like open and happy to see you. And a phone call would really provide that. And so let's talk about what it would take to make that happen. Because if it can't happen, I'm sorry. I don't think that I can be open to you. It's too much work for me. And then, so let's brainstorm, right? Let's say he brainstorms and then he still doesn't do it. Then the next week, it's not punishment. It's natural consequences. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm just not open. I really need to solve this, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I just want to say, you really got to listen to how Valerie voiced this. Men are very sensitive, believe it or not, especially our egos. And we've been talking about this the whole show. The moment it feels like it's combative is the moment we kind of shut down. And nothing that Valerie said made me, like, if I was the boyfriend and Valerie was the girlfriend, that wouldn't have made me shut down. It would have put me in problem solving mode. Like, oh, she's closing down. I don't want her to be in a closed down state. I want to solve this problem.
Right. Because I've already explained to him what happens when I get the phone call and what that provides for me and how it makes me open, and what happens when I don't get it and how it makes me close. So I've set up the game for him. Like men want to win the game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even though we're talking about emotions, like as a guy, we like a woman that's open, right? We don't want a woman that's closed, whether it's emotionally, sexually, all the things, right? And so the moment we're hearing closed, we're like, no, like I don't want a woman closed. I want her open.
Yeah, like my heart's closed, my body's closed. I mean, you don't have to use emotion words. You can use sensation words. Because any feminine communication involves emotions and sensations, and because guys want to make us feel good. And so, you tell them what makes you feel good, and you tell them the impact of when you don't get your needs met and it doesn't feel good, and then ask him to solve the problem. And, and then, but if he says he does and he won't, then you really want to get real with him and go like, hey, this is a deal breaker. I'm sorry. It's the way to enforce a boundary, both with children, parenting, and with teaching your romantic partner how you need to be treated in order to feel respected. It's the same thing. It's rewarding positive behavior and just sharing the natural consequences, not punishment. Like, just feel the difference between like, oh, he didn't do it, so I'm going to punish him. Like, that's actively wanting to hurt someone. I mean, we all do it, right? We all have a part of us that wants to do that. Versus just natural consequences is being authentic. Like, I'm very self-aware. I told you what would happen if like we didn't talk during the week, and I'm just tired right now, because I feel exhausted trying to keep myself open, it's just not working for me. That's just me being vulnerable.
I think what I've seen in a lot of relationships, when anytime a problem happens, we start saying you did this or you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing is slow down. The moment you want to blame him or use the you is like, think about it. And instead of the you, change it to I am feeling X.
Right.
So put it back on what your experience is. And so then if he wants to help that experience, he can. But it's just, this is what I'm feeling. Right. And if he cares about you, he's going to want to help you with that. Not like you're doing this wrong. No pointing the finger, and then a man can receive the information.
Exactly. Although I want to ask you this, Mike, if you agree that I wouldn't lead with sharing the feeling, because that's sort of blindsiding a man. If you're just like, I feel sad, he'll be like, what? Why?
Yeah. That's correct.
So, it's important to set it up like, hey, like I want to share something with you so that we can fix it. You know, I feel sad and I want you to help me fix it. Like, then you're sharing the positive intention. Then he's ready to listen. You just have to kind of like help set an intention. Like, why are you sharing your feeling? He needs to wrap his mind around why, and then he can be with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great ways around it. Like Valerie was just talking about, I think the compliment sandwich, I believe, or just starting off with like, our relationship's so amazing, or you're so amazing, like some sort of compliment, or even just reassurance in the sense of like, our relationship, like 99% of the time is great. Or like,
Right.
I love us.
Yeah.
But here's something I want to talk about.
Right.
Us is still fine, but this is just one thing I'd like to work on.
Yeah. Or yeah, exactly. Or just some positive intention. Like, hey, there's something, we're such a good team that I want to solve this together. You know, or I'm feeling bad and I want you to listen to me so I feel better. You know, like some kind of reason, some kind of positive intention why why he's listening. And then he'll get in that mode and want to support you if he cares, and, you know, if he's not triggered. Because, you know, I mean, there might also be something going on with him, but I mean, I think that people with anxious attachment are good usually when they're not triggered at giving people the benefit of the doubt, you know. So it's because they have really big hearts. So I think it's important to not just brush over the red flags. Like, if he agrees to do something and doesn't do it more than once, bring it up, but don't be like, you said you do this thing and didn't do it, right? Because that's accusing. So just say, hey, you know, I'd like to talk about something so that's not working for me, so we can make it work, you know. And then share vulnerably from your circle, like I said, and then it'll either work or it won't. And then, you know, depending on whether he can be inspired.
Yes. All right. So Tracy has a question. My handsome boyfriend, like that he's handsome. Nice work, Tracy.
Yes.
Handsome boyfriend hanging out with a young, cute girl at work. They eat together. Now he wants to go on a double date with me and her boyfriend. I'm not into it. They want to hang out outside of work, ? What do you think, Valerie?
Yeah, I mean, I did make another video about jealousy. So I do think, and in there I answer a lot of questions like this, but I'll give my rundown. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying you're jealous, but I mean, jealousy is feeling threatened by a person's relationship with someone else. So basically, so the inner work here is what I like to say is jealousy is a mixture of things. It's a mixture of emotions. It's fear that your relationship is being threatened. It's mistrust of him and his intentions with her. It's mistrust of the boundaries. It's lack of clarity around boundaries. And it's also anger that, you know, at her and at him for maybe not having clear boundaries with her. So it's all of it. It's all those things. And so the same self-soothing process that I'm sharing in my free gift is the same self-soothing that you can bring to all those feelings, but I would do that with each of those feelings because each of those feelings have different needs underneath them. And it is important to get them all addressed. So you need clear agreements about what the boundaries are. If you don't have that, then that's the first thing to address. The second thing, of course, is to respond to his request, which, you know, you don't feel comfortable with. And so it's important to stay in your circle there and just to go, you know, so if you're using, I have another free gift that's about, you know, the, what I call the manifest lasting love conversation. So if you go to my website, you can see that I have that under the free gifts. Which basically shares the outer work of how to share your feelings and how to follow that formula when you talk about it with him, is to, once you've done the inner work, is to do the outer work of saying, hey, like, I'm not comfortable with that. And I'd like to explain more to you why, so that you can understand me better, so we can create agreements that make me feel more safe. You know, and the fact that you're asking me shows that you just don't understand enough about what's going on inside of me around that. You know, can I share with you so you understand me, right? And then you share that you're just not comfortable. You know, you feel that you don't trust the woman's intentions and you don't feel comfortable going on a double date. And in fact, you need to clarify the boundaries of what makes you both feel safe in terms of like having lunch with her and what's comfortable, like go over all the boundaries, not just physical, but emotional. What are you comfortable sharing? What are you comfortable with him sharing about with her? And what are you not comfortable with? And what happens for you when these boundaries are honored? What happens for you when these boundaries are not honored? Just like I explained before, like from a emotional level, how do you feel when the boundaries are honored, and how do you feel when they're not? And what boundaries does he think are important to have with her, and why or why not? And what I would say is, if he has a secure attachment style or wants to, then the behaviors of someone that has a secure attachment style to create a secure relationship is that you make agreements that make both of you feel safe. You make agreements about boundaries, about what's okay to do both physically and emotionally with other people and what's not. And you clarify those together, and you get on the same page. And because that's what makes both people feel safe. And absolutely, I want to say that the main difference between having an insecure attachment style and having a secure attachment style is not that people that have a secure attachment style don't feel insecure. Everyone feels insecure sometimes, but if you have secure attachment, then you're able to be vulnerable. You're able to trust that other people care about your feelings and needs. And you'll say, hey, I feel insecure right now, and I want to brainstorm solutions that help me to feel better. And that's what someone with a secure attachment style would do, because they trust that other people want to meet their needs and work out solutions, and they have their back.
Cool. Love it. So since I'm a man and I like structure, and although our audience is female, some of them probably like structure too.
Yes.
What I'm hearing most of the time for almost all of these problems is like, do the inner work, then do the outer work, and then rock and roll. Hopefully we've got this solved.
Pretty much. And my free ebook about the outer work is called Manifest Lasting Love. And you can also get that if you go to my website. So don't want to make things complicated. The gift for the link for the free gift, how to break through old patterns, is now in the comments. So you can start there.
All right, cool. I think people are still having problems with the links. So anyone watching this, and even if you're watching the replay, just email me at mike@easydatingcoach.com, and I will send you the link. We will have this solved. If you're watching the replay, we definitely got it solved. But
yeah,
I've just tried it. It appears to be working. But anyway, we're going to get off in about 2 minutes here. Everyone, thank you so much for sticking with us for a while. And Valerie, thank you for being such a genius and really making this pretty simple. And as a man, I got to tell you, the way you articulate to solve problems is just a breath of fresh air, and it seems safe and it seems inviting. And this is how a marriage can last 30, 60, however many years, because it's not fighting, it's communicating, and it's doing it in a healthy way.
Totally.
And we unfortunately didn't all get to see this growing up with parents. But this is how you execute it. No matter where you started, this is where we can end up with this type of communication style. So Valerie, thank you for everything. And folks, like, this is just the tip of the Valerie iceberg. So definitely email me at mike@easydatingcoach.com so we can get like way more stuff. Because Valerie's been doing this for 15 years. This is just an hour with her. Imagine.
Thank you. And it's like, I ran out of water, so we better jump off because
Yeah, we got to get off. We need to get some water. We need to fix this link. We got a lot to do.
Oh my God.
Everyone, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, this has been such a pleasure. I love answering your questions. I always feel like I want to keep on, asking you more questions, because that's what I love to do as a coach. So feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I just, I want to let you know that healing is work, but it's worth it. And, love, healthy, happy love is worth it.
Yes. All right. We'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Bye.